Caetano Santos Godinho. And so this may be one that you are not very familiar with. He is quite literally the most obscure killer that we have in Killers the Card Game. I'm going to read you the back of the card real quick. Caetano Santos Godinho was born October 31st, 1896. Died on November 15th, 1944. He was an Argentinian serial killer who terrorized Buenos Aires at the age of 16. He was responsible for the murder of 4 children, the attempted murder of another 7 children, and 7 counts of arson. On January 4th, 1913, he entered a reformatory where he tried to kill some of the inmates. On March 28th, 1923, Godinho was transferred to Yeshua Penitentiary. Throughout 1933, he spent some time in the hospital for a beating he suffered from inmates after he killed 2 of their pet cats. From 1935 onwards, he was always ill and received no visitors until he died on November 15th, 1944, under suspicious circumstances. Right? So, this guy is known as the Big-Eared Midget. He was a little person who was particularly nasty. This guy was born before the turn of the century. It looks like the first time that he started trying to kill somebody was in it when he was 16. But this guy would go onto the playgrounds and he would abduct children, right? He would go there, he would pose as another child, he would lure those children off the playground because the parents thought he was another kid, and he would take them to a cave, he would rape and kill them. People said that he was a particularly nasty guy. He was also, if I remember correctly, very, very abused when he was younger. And of course, because of that, because of all of that trauma, he ends up becoming what he ends up becoming. Trying to murder children, killing at least 4 of them, and then setting a bunch of fires. So he would try to kill other people because of that. And so, he gets to prison, he causes a bunch of problems there, and eventually they end up killing him. And he ends up losing his life because he can't leave other people alone, right? So maybe he died, natural causes, probably not. He had made a lot of people angry and hurt a lot of people. And so, as we all know, when you get to prison, if you are a child molester or child killer, often they don't take very kindly to that. Caetano was in prison, through the mid 1900s until his death in 1944. But he was, 50 some years old when he passed away. So he was not young. He had plenty of time. Of course, he wasn't 80 years old when he died, but he was still in his 50s. It's amazing that he lived that long, right? And that he was able to get away with these crimes and kidnapping these children. But it's a fascinating case. For those of you that have not heard of him ever before, there's a couple podcasts on Caetano Santos Godinho, but not too many. There's very, very few. So this is probably the first time you're hearing about him. But he is one of our most obscure. We have another one that's really obscure, Ahmad Serhaji. And so maybe at some time we'll talk a little bit about him. But he is the sorcerer. In all the years that I have been bringing Killers the Card Game around with me, I have only known or met 3 people who knew who Caetano was, right? So what does that tell you? The thing is, here in the States, there's about 12 serial killers that everybody knows who they are. Dahmer and Bundy and Ramirez, maybe even, Ed Kemper because of Mindhunter. But the vast majority of people only know up to 10 killers, right? We watch all the shows and everything. The people that watch all the shows know many more than that. But the average American knows maybe 10. And there are literally thousands out there. So, one of the reasons why I created Killers is really to get people to understand how many of these people are around us all the time. So, one of the reasons why I do this show and we talk about these different killers every single week is because I want people to hear the stories. I want people to understand that, this isn't just the past, right? This is the present and the future. There are always going to be people around that are going to kill other people. The best that we can do is know, be vigilant, and be aware, right? So that we can make sure that we're not victims of those same type of crimes. So I love looking into the obscure. I love looking at the guys that maybe nobody's heard of before, because it's fascinating. We haven't heard those cases yet. And there's so many going on all over the place. There's so much new stuff coming out, and we're going to hear about like this whole thing in Delphi, the Cronenberg case, all of these things that are coming to light now. Gilgo Beach, those are just three that have really come to light in the last year or two, right? How many more are out there that haven't come to light, right? How many of them are working right now? It's scary, but we know that if we understand and we can get into the psychology and we can get a better understanding of how these people operate, how they work, how they're thinking, how they present, we as a society become safer, right? And that's always been the goal. So anyway, check it out. Check out Killers. Thank you for joining us for another 5-Minute Murder, and I will catch you all next week.